Hello guys, welcome back to another episode of my YouTube channel. My name is Kwashe. Today I'm doing a special episode. I'm doing something very different from what I've done prior, which is I'm preparing for my interview with Square Block. And I have a technical phone screen coming up, so today you're gonna get ready with me. So I'm doing a get ready with me video, something that I'm super excited about, something that I haven't tried on the channel. So yeah, let's do it. I'm going to show you exactly how I walk through my prep. So my interview is in a day. Actually, yeah, it is in a day. Damn. So yeah, I'm going to walk you through how I think about my prep, what I actually do, how I do it. I'm going to share my screen and walk with you guys. I haven't done any questions that are particular to my preparation for Square. So I think this will be very beneficial to you to follow through with me and see how I do it and how I've gotten successful. So yeah, let's go on with it. I'm going to start sharing my screen and then you guys can follow me through and can have fun with me. How does that sound? Okay, cool. Let's do it. Let me share the screen that I want to share. And let me remove anything I don't want to share. Yeah, so we're just gonna start. We're gonna start simple, right, guys? We're gonna start real simple. We're gonna just start by learning what people are saying about interviewing at Square. So what I like to do, I'm gonna create a Google Doc here. All right, so let's do it. I'm gonna start sharing my screen now. Let me pull up my screen so you guys can see what I'm up to. And good to see you guys, by the way. Really good seeing you guys, by the way. Okay, let's do it. So one of the first thing I like to do is to go on Glassdoor. Just want to learn what people's experiences have been interviewing with this company. Anything that are red flags, anything I should look out for, the most, asked questions. You'll be surprised the things that people share in these experiences. So let's do that first. So here we're going to go to Glassdoor. We're going to go to interviews. So if you have never done this, this is my secret sauce. And then, yeah, let's check out. I like to, filter them by the most recent, because that's most helpful. So, and then sometimes first, what I like to do is filter them by engineering roles. But sometimes I'm weary of doing that because I don't think that filtering is that good. So sometimes you end up filtering out things that are important. So sometimes what I would just do is I would just read all of them, skipping, of course, the ones that are not necessary. Because sometimes it may be a machine learning engineer interview or a senior engineer interview or an entry-level engineer interview, but those experiences are also really interesting to show you how the company is thinking about interviewing. So I highly recommend still reading them in general, at least for the technical roles, because that gets to show you like some of the things to look out for. So here they're saying rendering a merge sort in a live preview editor. Rendering a merge sort in a live preview editor. Text screen was interesting. Interviewer asked a front-end coding question related to rendering a merge sort. However, the recruiter didn't send any emails related to how this interview went after that. That's interesting. That's good to know. This is in September. Today is October 7th, as you can see on my screen. So that's quite recent. So for me, I'm doing a full stack interview. I asked them that I could do a back-end leaning interview instead, because I had a choice since I'm a full stack engineer, if I want to do something more leaning on the back end or on the front end. And for me, given that I've been practicing data structures and algorithms, it just made more sense for me to do something that's more related to, that's more back-end leaning. Okay, so let's see here. So there's the business development, software engineering interview. Let's see. So software engineering interview, 10 questions are iterative. First design X, then when to add this capability Y, then another capability Z. Technical screen follows in the on-site or consisting of two Two nursing followed by on-site, or because the two pregnant program taking search and wants to design, one person doing design. Question. Also give a system question before the on-site, so you have more time to prepare, but the process of the on-site is completely backwards. I passed the on-site, but there was a second round of talking to the hiring manager for the on-site, and then after that I talked to a hiring manager. This is bad. You see, guys, these are the kind of things you would find from, reading this stuff. So they're saying like they passed the phone screen, they went to on-site, and then they constantly had to do rounds after that. I've been kind of experiencing the same thing with Google, right? So the Google process is quite similar to that, but they keep you in the system for at least a year if you pass their interviews. If you at least pass their technical rounds, they keep you in the system for a year. But if you don't find a team that wants you, you continue to do what he's describing here, where you talk to a hiring manager, and then the hiring manager is like, hey, I wanted you to talk to the tech lead. And then the tech lead says, hey, we're interested in you. And then you won't hear them back from them for another week, another 2 weeks, and you're being moved around like a chicken. So I can understand the frustration. Whoever you are, if you ever watch this video, I'm really sorry you experienced this. This is a horrible experience. I see why you put this as a negative experience. Yeah, that's weird. Okay. Software engineer interview, 1 to 2 interviews, 60 minutes. You'll be paired with an engineer to write and compile code in a collaborative online editor. Okay, that sounds normal. Part 1, horizontal bar graph. So given an array of integers, create a horizontal bar graph where each entry translates into a row of dashes for that length from top to bottom. For example, dataset 2 renders as this. Part 2, vertical bar graph. Your user prefer vertical bar graph where each is shown as a column. Implement that as from part 1 renders like this. That is super interesting. So I guess this is like more of a front end interview. I like this. This is so cool. Given an array of integers, create a horizontal bar graph. Oh, you know what? It could actually still be, I was thinking, yeah, this could still be, it could still actually be not a front end interview. Yeah. That makes sense. So, yeah, but how would you render this? So it's saying for 2, how would they render 2? Because I would expect this to be 2 next to each other, right? Interesting. So it looks like it's blank here. How? It looks like the space here is longer. That's interesting. I've never seen a question quite like it. Okay, I'm gonna read 2 more and then I'll move on. My wife is a data scientist, so I'm gonna send her this at some point. It seems like they ask a lot of SQL and Python. Okay. In a 2D an array is placed. Move with this. Record a call, then followed by 1 hour coding screen. Okay. The interview declined the interview and reminded me if I could come into. Okay, he gave me questions, 2 levels. First came beat on the second one. He kept obstructing while I was speaking and kept in parallel editing as I was typing my code. Finally, because of this, I couldn't find my shot at the very end because of my Miana case and the rejected system analysis and drop so not up to my. Jeez, people have horror stories here. Given the provided problem, write out array, my way to solve it using code. That is not helpful whatsoever. Like, you should not even have posted this, bro. Whoever you are, woman or man, like, this is useless. Like, given the provided problem, write out a way to solve it using code. That's what we do in an interview. I'm sorry. You need to remove this. Please throw this away. You're wasting our time. Okay. Past experience, JS, tech questions. Okay. I think I got a feel. So what the field that I got, just so that you guys know what to look out for. It seems like a lot of people like experience really negative experiences here, so I'm not gonna go with the highest of expectations. This is also helpful for you when you're thinking about your emotions, how you're feeling going into it, and so it's also helpful that if you end up having one of these experiences, you know that like, hey, it was not all about me. But also, it helps you know how these people think about interviewing, right? So that you're really prepped. If you, at least if you go expecting the worst, if things don't go well, or things go well, then you're at least in a better place than if you went expecting the best experience. So far, what I've seen is they ask kind of random questions. So I shouldn't really prep a certain direction, because sometimes by looking at Glassdoor, what you realize is that a company really likes asking DFS or BFS questions. So that influences the prep that we're about to do, right? Or the prep that you would be doing for that particular company. So I really, really strongly advise that your first stop when you're preparing for a technical screen or an on-site interview is to check out the experiences that people have on Glassdoor. I also would say the same thing for a recruiter screen, because I remember there was a company I was looking into, I was interviewing with. I didn't know much about this company, so I went in Glassdoor and I even read the reviews about the company so I could really understand it. Glassdoor is an excellent tool for this. And then in reading experience after experience after experience, people were really complaining. They were like, this company is not, so one, I'm going to just say the company, okay? I'm just going to say the company. The company is Asana, right? I read every review on that. People had negative experiences of the people that they were talking to or that they were interviewing with were not friendly. They were barely even there. Some people were calling them names. Someone had a racist interviewer, just bad experiences left and right. And then I went to the interview, and one of my interviewers was not even paying attention in the interview. At one point, she was even laughing, she was clearly on her phone, on her computer, doing some other things, and it was just really a horrible experience. And so I remember going through that, and I knew I had to tell the recruiter, right? And the recruiter didn't manage it well at all. They didn't help me. Actually, I ended up doing a follow-up interview. It was actually 2 follow-up interviews. And those interviews didn't even matter, because by the time I was done, the recruiter told me hey, we're not even considering you for the role anymore. Actually, they didn't even tell me. They were not even honest about that. I actually had to find out by asking them question after question of okay, what happened? It seems like I did well. I'm pretty sure my interview experience was good. And eventually that's when she opened it up and told me, hey, actually, we're not even considering you for this role because you finished your interviews late. And I was like, wait, I didn't finish them late because of my own reasons, my own personal reasons. It's because your interviewer gave me such a bad experience interviewing, and about that, and that's why I had to do this follow-up interviews, which ended up adding 1 or 2 weeks to my timeline. Initially, my timeline, I would have been one of the first people to finish the loops. So I'm saying this to say, please read this stuff, right? It gives you an impression on the company. It may also give you even a decision before you even apply to them, whether you would even want to work at a company like that, right? So and look out for those things in your own experiences. And these are things that you can bring up in the recruiter screen. That's why I'm also advising you guys to read this before you go for your recruiter screen, because these are the questions that you ask your recruiter. Hey, I'm reading a lot of negative reviews on your interview process. Have you seen those reviews? Can you explain why your company seems to be going this direction? Why is that everyone on your reviews internally is saying that they hate being there, that they don't like working there? Why is that there's so much cons to your company, right? These are the questions that you ask the recruiters, because that's their job to answer your questions. And that could even help influence how the recruiter is there for you as you're going through your process, because they know that they're messed up, so they'll send you their best people to interview you. That has happened to me prior, where because I knew how bad their company was and I talked to the recruiter, they made extra accommodations for me, knowing that I already knew that their culture, they had something to prove to me given the bad things that I read online. So hopefully that's helpful. So let's switch gears. Now we go to Leetcode. So what I like to do for when it comes to Leetcode is of course, I go to the company specific because right now it's a day before my interview. So I want to make sure that I do all the most popular questions. So these are the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's perfect. I usually try to do at least 10 questions before my interview that are specific to the company. So what I do for this on a high level, I open all of them like this. Okay. I open like this. And then what I like to do, I've actually worked on some of these questions. But I think a lot of them I haven't worked on them. Oh, shoot. I just closed something I didn't want to close. So what I like to do here is that I have this document. I call it Getting Smarter. So like this is the document that I had for Airbnb, for example. So what I do is I have the problem name itself. I have the link. I have the general approach after I've done the problem. So I remember, then I have some quick notes and things to remember. And so here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of this. So I have a place to start. And then I'm just going to change the name here to Square. So I have Square Prep, Getting Smarter, Square Prep. And then now what I do is, of course, I just have to delete this. And then now, because I have all this already open, I just like to do this. As I do the question, what I do is I go back in here, and then I just put the question. I put the link to the question, and then so now I have to do the question to do the general approach. So now let's go in and the reason I do this, by the way, so you understand on a high level, is that I want to take note of all the patterns that are in their questions, and then because certain companies love asking certain patterns, you realize this. Even for example with Google, they're going to definitely ask you a graph question at some point. Actually, most of their questions are graph questions. So two of the 5 interviews I did, they were graph questions. So 3 of the 5 or 6 interviews I did were graph questions. So more than at least half of them. Then one was DP or recursion, depending on how you chose to solve it. But it was also leaning on graph. Like it was kind of a DFS type of question. So I would highly recommend doing graphs for at least, especially for the phone screen that they do at Google. They're definitely going to ask you a graph question. But you would only know that by interviewing with them many times or by looking at their question bank and doing all their questions or doing most of their questions looking for patterns. So I'm a guy who loves patterns. And I highly recommend that when you're doing these questions too, you look for patterns in the questions they ask, but patterns implicit in the questions themselves, so that you solve the questions more efficiently and quickly, like I've been saying on this channel if you've watched my other videos. Okay, so let's do this question. I have never seen this question. Oh, I have, but I want to hide it from myself so that I'm not copying what I've done in the past, because that one is not going to help me. Okay, so I know I'm looking, but I'm not looking. I didn't look to see how I did it. And I advise you to do the same. So approach every problem as if you're seeing it for the first time. So in this question, let's go ahead and do this question. Let me make sure that my video is recording here. Give me 1 second, guys. All right. I think it's recording. So let's see. So we're given a string, S, and a dictionary of strings word dict. Return true if X can be segmented into a space-separated sequence of 1 or more dictionary words. Okay, given if S can be segmented into a space-separated sequence of 1 or more dictionary words. Okay, so let's say you're given the word Leetcode. You know that this can change into Leetcode. Okay. I guess because you can break it down here to lead and code. I see. Okay. That makes sense. So not that the same word in the dictionary may be reused multiple times in the segmentation. Not that the same word in the dictionary may be used multiple times in the segmentation. So what do they mean in the segmentation? I guess it could show up many times in the... I'm not seeing it where it shows up many times. Okay. Okay, so the same word. So apple, pen, apple. Wow, I see what they mean. Okay, apple, pen, apple. So you could do X is goes to apple, pen, apple. This could be segmented into apple, and then you would have apple and pen, apple, and then pen, apple would further split into pen, apple would further sleep pen, apple. I think I wrote this wrong. Pen, apple would then go and split into pen, apple would further split into pen and apple. All right, I see what's going on here. Okay, so I think what I can do, I can make segmentations like think of this like as a window. I think I can do kind of like 2-pointer here, where I have this window up to here. I check from left to right, and then I check from right to end, if that makes sense. And then I can check if right to end, I can word break right to end, and check if there's if both divisions are in the word dict. Okay, so check if both divisions are in the word dict. Have a left and a right, and check from right to end. Okay, so one more thing that I forgot to do is I always set a timer. Oh, this is the most important bit. So I always set a timer, and I always set 10 minutes to figure out the question. Here, I'm not forcing myself for the first 10 minutes. I'm not forcing myself to have a complete answer to the question. What I force myself is to problem solve. So what I force myself is like by the end of 10 minutes, I should have at least have pseudocode of how to solve the problem, or some pseudocode and some code of like getting an approach to an answer. I should at least have an understanding of how to solve the problem. If I don't have that in 10 minutes, then I pause, and then I may look at an answer, or I may give myself another 5 minutes if I feel I'm really close. But after the 15 minutes, if I haven't figured it out, then I look at the solutions to try and understand how I would have solved it. And then I try to close the solution and try to write it with a new understanding. I give myself another 10 minutes to write it with a new understanding. And then at the end of those 25 minutes or 25 to 30 minutes, I have a full solution. I give myself max for all these things 30 minutes. And then at that point, I, write the solution back in here, right? According to my own words, right? I write the solution in here. I write the general approach, quick notes. It's usually the mistakes that I made and things to note. Is usually things that I learned in the process of solving the problem. I highly encourage this approach because on the day of the interview, all you do is you just look at your quick notes and your things to note, because these are things that you are most likely going to miss again, because we constantly make the same mistakes. So that's why I do that, so that I don't make the same mistakes again. They say they say foolishness is making the same mistakes over and over again. So make sure that you're not foolish in your approach. Okay, let's do word break. So my thinking is I'll check from right to end. I'll check from left to right, and I'll check from right to end. So I'll do a substring of the first segment and the substring of the last segment, and then I would check and I'll do a word break on that on the first segment. I'll do a word break on that last segment, and then for each break, I'm checking to see if it's in the word dict. Let's see. Yeah, I'm checking to see all right, so let's try to do that. How would you even do that? So let's do it for this example, Leetcode, right? So I'm thinking left will start as 0. So let's do the skeleton thing we always talk about. So the skeleton that I'm realizing in this question is that I'm using some kind of like string manipulation, like substrings. And I'm doing some kind of like indexing, and I'm doing like 2 pointers. So this is what's common about this question. And then the flesh of it is I need to figure out where do I break. It's like, where do I break? Where do I break my string? And I need to figure out the base case, because it's clearly naturally recursive. So I guess the other thing is that this is a recursive function. And then I need to figure out the base case. That's the flesh. So let's figure out the skeleton, and let's figure out the flesh, and then the skeleton is the easy part, right? So where do I break my string? Okay, so and how do I move the pointers? All right, so here looking at the string, what I'm doing here is my left is going to start here. I think I want my right to start at left plus 1. Right, to end. And then I'm going to, so in substring, I think actually, because we want the substring, I guess that makes sense. If the entire word exists in the word dict, then we want to return true, right? Okay, if the entire word exists in the word dict, so for example, what ends up happening here, right, is the case that we can have Leetcode in our dictionary in this case, right? So let's see. So word dict is going to have at least one word. The length of the string is going to be at least one character. So we definitely want to explore the character 0 here. So we could say if length is 1, so base case, if length is 1, I guess, then we can return if length is 1 or if length is 0, we want to return false, because that means like we've gone into a place where we have segmented the string so much that it doesn't have any. But do we ever want to do that? That's the question I have for myself here. All right, let's run our idea or like bare algorithm here. Okay, so let's say I start here. My left, let's just assume left starts at 0, and then my right is, so left to right, which is gonna be left to 1. So it will be, no, but I want my left to be 0 and then right to be, maybe I want to start both at 0, right? I think I maybe just want to start both at 0. And then what I could do is from 0 to 0, substring of 0 to 0, what is a substring from 0 to 0? It's nothing, right? I think if it's 0, I don't want to. I just want to return. I don't want to do anything. Otherwise, if the substring is 1, because I want to know when do I stop segmenting, and what do I return? Because you're dividing. Word.dict, so word.dict.length can also just have one character. So I guess that's the best. So the best case is 0 characters then. So if you have 0 characters, then that means you can't find, so 0 characters want to return false. So that's the best case, because the character in the dict could just be, there could be one, the word in the dict could just have one character. That's a possibility. So the base case is if length is 0, right? So if you've subdivided, so what you want to return at each point, you want to check if like left segment, so return, in each case you're returning left segment, you're returning word break of left segment, or word break of left segment, or right segment, word break of right segment. That's it. So you can do a DFS approach, DFS, for lack of a better word, where you're passing in the break, the break that you're looking at, and then you're subdividing it into 2 problems, from left to right, from right to left, and then the next string that you pass in, you're subdividing it again, and then that's it. And then if either of those are true, oh no, but they all need to be false, right? I guess they would all need to be false. Okay, so you'd need to divide, you would need to be able to break down, no, but I don't want to return too early, right? That's one thing I'm thinking. I don't want to return too early. So I need to be able to divide. Okay, my time is up. My time is up, guys. My time is up. Okay, let me give myself 5 more minutes to sort of figure out. Let me give myself. Okay, so I'm going to set my Pomodoros to be 5 minutes so that when I need the 5 minutes, it will come from this. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Pomodoros, but so these are going to be my extra time. Pomodoros are going to be my extra time. Okay. So one thing that I want to do is I want to check. Okay. So let me quickly write it because I want to write code now. Is I want to break this up, right? Let's run through an example. Break this up. 0 to 0 is not in the thing. If it's not in the thing, then do a word break. All right, you know what? Let's start with the string here, and then we'll call the DFS here with S and the word dict, of course. I think we already have the word dict. So here what we want to do is if s is equals to if s dot length is equals to 0, then we want to return. Right. I'm gonna do return for now because I'm thinking like we don't want to return too soon. Okay, so and then we want to check now. We want to do left segment is equals to s dot substring substring from left to right, and then left segment, right segment is equals to s dot substring from right to end, right? And then now what I want to do is we want to return that so if both these segments, if left segment, if word dict of left segment, so if word dict dot has oh no, it's an array. Okay, so let's change that to a set. So let you know what, we need to do the set here. Okay, so let's say const set is equals to const word set is equals to new set of word dict. And then now what we want to do is that we want to say if word set dot has left segment, word dict is left segment and right dict has left segment, has right segment, then here we want to return true immediately. Otherwise, else if word set, let's say word set has left segment, but I guess right doesn't, right? Else for has left segment, then we're gonna say DFS. We're gonna just do it. We want to check of right segment, right? DFS of right segment, else we want to do else. That means if both, is it that both are not in there? Else if, I guess, do we need to do the else if too, of like, I guess. Right segment. Then in this case, I think I ran out of time now. Like now I'm actually out of time. You know, one thing I'm thinking is I need to pass indexes to my DFS. So, you know what, since I'm coding now, I figured out that my 15 minutes I've been able to figure out the algorithm and stuff, and I'm just coding now. And interviews are usually 25 minutes. Like 15 minutes is elapsed now. So I have another 10 minutes to code this up and run it and make sure it's working. So I'm gonna give myself another, 10 minutes like I said earlier. So let me set my instead of setting my Pomodoros, let me pause my Pomodoros and then do an actual timer. Yeah, so cool. So now, one of the things I'm thinking about, I think this is the right idea, but I also would need, I would need to do else. In the else case, so the word dict is not on the, So it's not our best case. It's not our second best case because this is our first best case. And then, in this case, the word dict, the left segment is in the word dict. So now we just need to check if the right segment is in the word dict. So I think we need to check. One of the things we need to check is if if word dict dot has s, then we need to return true immediately. Sorry, we need to return true in this case immediately, and then otherwise we need to divide it into the left and the right segments, and then we need to check now if word dict has the left segment and word dict has the right segment, then we need to return true. Else if word set has left segment, then we need to do a DFS of right segment. Else if word set has right segment, we need to do a DFS of the left segment. Otherwise, this is the one place that I'm kind of struggling. I think this is where we need to move over word dict. This is when we need to move over the we just need to move over our pointers, right? So we know, so like here we're saying, so left now becomes so we need to increase left while we need to make sure that the right pointer has not gone out of bounds. In a case where it's gone out of bounds, then we also want to say if right pointer right is now greater than 0, 10. Now it's gonna s dot length return false. So s dot length, I think, yeah, you string dot length. If right is greater than or equal to string dot length, then we need to stop. We need to return false. Then that means we've gone out of the bounds of this, right? Or do we just need to return the DFS? I think so. Okay, this is looking like a long function. This is looking really long. And I'm kind of worried that maybe I'm not thinking about this right. Okay, let's just see here. So if word set has the left segment, DFS of right segment, and then the left here becomes that's a good point. Left here, so for the first time you call this, left is starting so left starts it, left is equals to and then here we can say left and right. But then when you get here, when you call here DFS left and right, so for your right segment, if you're doing a DFS of the right segment, that means your left is actually what right was, and then your right, I guess your left and where your right, where would your right be? Your right will be your right, right? So you want to start looking at that because you want to break it up. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And then for the DFS, if you're looking at left segment, then your left is actually, if you're looking at the left segment, if you're trying to break down the left segment, you know the right segment is, then you're now trying to break down the left segment. So you know that your left segment, wherever left is, so your right is actually equal to, if you're looking at the left segment, so let's say you just broke down this, right? You broke down this, you brought down lead and code, right? Or let's look up at apple and pen apple, right? This example where, forgive me. So you have apple and pen apple. Let's say you're broken down apple. Actually, let's write it as if like if it was apple and then apple pen. So you know that the word set, actually this was perfect. Let's say you broke it down up to here. Or let's say pen apple. All right, so, or let's say pen boat, because boat is not there. So let's segment here. We know already, so let's say you broke it down like this, and then the left segment, so it definitely has the right segment, or like I saw it's actually the other way around. So let's say you did boat and pen, right? You did boat and pen. You broke it down here. Word set has the right segment, right? But it doesn't have the left segment. So now this is your right to end. This is your left to right. So what do you want to do? Left to right. You want to check, you want to break down this string into B to the rest. Yeah. So your left will be left and your right will be right. Your left will be left and your right will be right. Your left. So the left will stay the left. The right will be the left as well, right? I hope. Else, in this else case, we're saying we want to move normally. So we want to say right plus plus, left, I think we just want to just move the right. I think that's how I would do it. Okay. I'm going to pause here and just think for a second. I'm going to do a dry run of my code. So I think I'm left with about 1 minute. I'm just gonna do a dry run of my code just to see does this stuff make sense to me. Okay, let me just, does this stuff make sense to me? Okay, so we're defining a word set. We have a left and right pointer. That's all starting at 0. So for the first, let's do this as an example. If right is greater than s.length, return. Right is not greater. If s.length is equals to 0, return. Well, s in the beginning is the entire Leetcode word. And then, okay, so we break it down from like left to right and then from right to end. You know what? I should actually have done some BFS, some binary search on this guy. I should have broken it into exact halves. You know, take the other half and take the other half and break this into significant. But then we don't know that though, because these elements are gonna be at halves, right? Yeah. Okay. All right, let me stop here. I'm sorry. Okay, guys, I need to stop here. So now that I have this, I'm gonna of course run it, but I have a feeling it's not gonna work. But I'm gonna give myself 5 minutes to figure everything out because that will be 30 minutes and then we have to do a hard stop. So for the sake of time, of course, let me delete this. For the sake of time, oh, sorry, I needed to say word sets.has. Oh, my bad. Okay, so for the sake of time, I usually like to use ChatGPT here. Right segment. End is not defined. I guess let's say let end is equals to s.length minus 1. Let's just say s.length. Yeah, I'm getting our return 10 DFS of this 10 return. I need to return 10 DFS. It's returning undefined. All right, guys. So I have 3 minutes. So this is where I like to ask ChatGPT where I'm going wrong. Normally, I would look at solutions and then see where I may have gone wrong. My thinking is how I'm breaking up the string and how I'm calling my DFS is like maybe a little off. But, you know, this is the part where I get the big guys to help me. So let's ask ChatGPT what they think. Your code contains some syntax errors and logical issues, especially in handling recursion parameters. Here's a corrective along with some explanation to make sure it aligns with your intentions. In the difference, you don't need to pass left and right as parameters in each call. Instead, handle segments based on the right pointer's value. Best conditions, you need to check for empty segments and if the word is entirely in the dictionary. Yeah, that's I thought I was doing that. Oh, okay, yeah. So if the substring is empty, then we return true. I guess an empty substring is in the word dict. So while right is less than end. Oh, that makes sense. Okay. don't believe this code, guys. I really don't. Okay, I don't believe this code. My time's up though. I need to respect my time. I need to move on to the next question. But I don't believe this code. Okay, let me comment out my code here. Let me put this here. But I don't believe this code. It is true. Let's see. I'm pretty sure it's gonna. Yeah, I don't believe this code. Because I guess like we would have to do some kind of like. Trust this. Okay, so I guess I'm trying to understand. Yeah, it's exceeding time limit. Oh, so you use some memorization. Okay, that's cool. That's super interesting. Guys, like you see how these simple problems get a little complex as you work on them. I thought that was super interesting. But yeah, guys, I hope that was super helpful. The only thing that's left for me for this problem is for me, I was just trying to understand. I guess where I was not understanding is how, if for the first split, we would have, for example, for Leetcode, the first split would have left segment be L and then the right segment will be E to the very end of the string, right? Why is that not a false case? Why is that we're not returning out of that? Given this code, I would assume, okay, because what I would assume, yeah, but what else? Oh, dude, you're right. I think, I think what's interesting is that I think they're right. because the first split, right, because you have a for loop, and you're only returning in the for loop if you find what you're looking for. Otherwise, you're just gonna recurse. No, otherwise you're gonna go to the next segment. You're gonna go to the next break. I get it. So you're using the for loop to segment your string each time, right? You're using your for loop to segment each time, right? You're using your for loop to segment the left and the right. That is actually pretty clean, right? So you're using the for loop, and I think I was trying to do it all in one, which I shouldn't have done. So now I'm thinking about it in abstract terms is for each segmentation of left and right, which I do for the for loop, I want to check if the left segment is in the word dict. If it is, then I want to do DFS on the right segment. That's interesting. DFS on the right segment, and then if DFS on the right segment, if DFS on the right segment, if let's say in DFS on the right segment is equals to true, then I'll return true. Otherwise when I'm done in the loop, then I just return false. And then the DFS would manage that if the length is 0, then we return true. Oh, wow. That was super interesting. Okay. So now you guys are going to get to see what I get to do here. Now that I've understood that. So general approach, have a DFS function. You just pass the string. So you see my notes to myself, guys? Don't overcomplicate it. Think abstractly. You have Interesting. Good problem. All right, one problem done. Let's keep going. Let's reload this. Yeah, one problem done. Okay, so I think this one, like they say, we use memorization, so we can say are we doing memo of right segment when DFS of the right segment is? I think so, right? And then if substring, full string. I think so. Still doing the time limit exceeded here. What am I doing wrong? So it's memo substring of entire substring. I guess that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, so we can do memo of substring in this. So memo of substring in this would actually be the right thing to do. And I think time limit exceeded is still there because, okay, so let's do this final run and then be done with it. All right, let's see if this one will run. Okay, that's perfect. Interesting. So what I'm noticing is that I think it was this check here that was throwing it off. Okay, that's good to know, guys. So I just learned memorization and all of this, and let me write that down. Quick notes: you can use memorization for quick access and to improve solution. So yeah, so that's about it, guys. That's about it, guys. So that's how I get ready for interviews. I just showed you for one question how I would tackle it. Again, just to break it down, before I even get to questions, I go on Glassdoor, I read reviews about the company, how they interview, what they focus on. What I learned for this specific company called Square is that they ask random questions, and that some people have had negative experiences. interviewing with them. So I'm prepared to make sure that if I end up having a negative experience, I have something to reference, which is great. But specifically when it comes to solving the Leetcode problem, I solve it using the patterns that I've been telling you guys to use. In this question, I quickly realized I was supposed to use some pointers. So I had a right pointer and a left pointer, which came in very handy. But as you could see, I struggled pretty much in that question. I was able to figure out the idea and the structure of how I would solve the problem. I knew that it was recursive in nature, and I tried to do the recursion, but there were specific bugs that I had in there. And so the two things that I'm walking away for that I learned in doing this question is that I need to take it easy and just not over complicate the situation or the solution. I should just think of it in terms of the abstraction that I have seen in the question. So for example, here I knew that it was a 2-pointer question, or a question that I would need at the right and the left pointer. All I needed to do is have a for loop that mimics having that window function, that moving window of like elements that I'm selecting either on the left or on the right, which I call the left and the right segment. And then once I have those, I can just check at each iteration of that for loop, if those elements, if the left segment is already accounted for, and then now I'll just need to recurse over the right segment, which is something that, and then if I find those two left and right segments both in the word dict, then I would return true. Otherwise, once the for loop is done, I'm returning false. So that it was just as simple as that. That's all I needed to do. But I overcomplicated in trying to solve for each individual case that existed, instead of just trusting the recursion to do their work for me. I hope that was super helpful. This is the structure that I've been using that I strongly recommend. Give yourself up to 30 minutes. So right now it's I think it's exactly at 45 minutes, and since we started this session, 45 to 50 minutes, which is what you anticipate your whole entire interview taking. This was a medium question, so I would expect you should be able to solve the question within 20 to 30 minutes of coding, problem solving and everything involved. And then you usually have 10 minutes to talk about, to have a conversation with the interviewer. So this is exactly what you kind of expect to see. But yeah, rate my performance. Let me know how I did. Let me know how I can get better. Make sure to like, subscribe, and share if you like this video. I hope it was super helpful for you in your prep and in your journey as well. Take care. Bye. See you in the next one.